great leaders in healthcare are highly sensitive. Yes, I work with healthcare providers in the central US. Some of the toughest, most resourceful, strongest, most overcoming people there are. And yes, you are incredibly sensitive. You're a healthcare provider. You're supposed to have all of these professional protections and professional distancing and all of these things up. And part of what makes you great is that you're so sensitive. Now, I hear this often talked about as a weakness, as I shouldn't be so sensitive. I need to learn how not to be so sensitive, people have said to me over the years. Now, for many years, my primary business, my primary coaching, my primary mentoring was spiritual work. It was authenticity and confidence, but through deep, deep, deep spiritual work. And it was through this work that I learned to embrace my sensitivities. Both to my patients, I learned that this was something that made me great with the patients. But it also made me great as a leader because I noticed the nuances between what was being done today and what was done a week ago. I noticed that this staff member's light in their eyes wasn't as bright today. And it led me to asking what happened. Hey, what's up? Now, here's something that many of my spiritual patients that were also in healthcare, it was a flip order back then, was how do I say it? When I have an inner knowing, right? Because we're highly sensitive, we have access to a whole other realm of information, right? Maybe a question pops in your head. Maybe a patient, raises their shoulder when you get to talking about their dosing on their medications or side effects of chemo or whatever you're working on that day. And it leads you to leaning in to ask about that. Maybe you feel a draw. Maybe you feel a clench in your stomach. Maybe you feel a tingle in your toes. It doesn't make sense. Ask about it. Tell me about the tingle in your toes. Right now, start this with your staff. Start this with friends. Start, if you haven't yet, this is work that I do with clients that I have when we're in our one-on-one times, okay? This begins with building a relationship, a foundation for relationships where you realize how incredible you are, but where you begin to build empowered and authentic relationships, which means you are no longer responsible for people pleasing, for caretaking. Right? Yes, you are a caregiver, but you aren't completely responsible for them. Does that make sense? You are a resource on their journey. Okay? And they have come to you. Now, you're not supposed to be spiritual in the central US oftentimes, are we? How do you speak to that? How do you be an empath in the central US in healthcare without burning yourself out? These are all things that happen. These are things I teach you. This becomes a natural extension where you learn to turn these gifts on and off, where you are not subject to them, but they are your superpower. Okay. This is another thing that when you travel to other parts of the US, when you start to research other things, when you start to learn other ways of being, other ways of thinking, right? This is another one of the things that then you come back because you want to bring this incredible information to your communities. And you feel even more like an outsider even more lonely, even more unsure. This is even more where this work of you realizing that you being you allows other people to be themselves. This is where the pre-leadership work is so required, that you have this foundation of empowered and authentic relationships where you know that you are cherished, loved, and respected for all of who you are, where you know that there are systems and structures that support you, not constrict you, and where you know that you protect and provide a place for your full expression, your values, your dreams, and your desires. That's your practice. That's your dream practice, you see. So you get to decide. Now, yes, I help you, and yes, we curate this, and yes, we speak to this, and yes, you're not responsible for caretaking anymore, and you may choose in your authenticity, through your intuition, through the part of you that you decide to show up as right now, in this moment, and this moment, and this moment, that you may want to say it this way. Hey, I just had this question pop in my head. Hey, something led me to ask you this question today. Hey, this is kind of a weird thing, but I just thought to call you today. Hey, I can't put my finger on it, but I noticed that you seemed less comfortable talking to so-and-so today. And you may have an intuitive nudge to say, my spider spiritual healers directed me to looking at your left knee, whatever it may be. Right? And who knows, maybe they're developing a DVT right there behind it that they just thought was a weird ache because they took kind of a funny step yesterday. However you decide to say that, right? You know your patients. You are in tune with them. It's what makes you a great provider, is your access to this extra information. Now, not everybody has access to spirit guides like I do, into animal spirit guides like I do, into ancestral connections and people, into healing those ancestral wounds. And not everybody can visualize chakra energies like I can. But you have your own access to this unseen, unknown information. And awareness is the first arc of leadership, of light leadership. This is what makes you an incredible leader, is being able to be proactive. And before there's full chaos and full drama about a thing, you've already had a conversation about the thing. You're like 10 steps ahead of it. You had a thought to ask a question about. It's these sensitivities. Now, again, you choose when you turn this on and when you turn this off. You choose your expression about this thing. And this is where this confidence work, this is where delving into these core concepts, getting really, really clear on how you get to show up, what your dream practice feels like, what your relationship is like with your patients. These are all things you get to decide. This is all a part of you developing and leading your dream practice. And this is all stuff I hope you do. I've done it all the ways. All the ways. My spirit guide, my intuition, my whatever. I had a feeling in my left little toe to ask you about. And, weird question. What about now? I do everything from hearing, right? Spiritual things show up in different ways. From hearing, like an actual question, like I will hear the words, to all of a sudden glancing at them and seeing, like half transparency, a bruise on their leg, to just like a static or like a murkiness in a spot. I'll smell things like, you know what infection smells like? I'll smell infection, or I'll smell blood, or I'll smell, right? And things come up to me in different ways at different times. Everybody has their own primary way that things show up to them. And then secondary, third, tertiary, like sometimes things just pop in your head and you just know. You get to be sensitive. Now, through that, people are like, oh my God, what about being an empath? Again, this is a gift, a superpower that you get to turn on and off when you choose. When you choose, you see. You do not have to take on everybody else's energies. You get to actually give it back to them. Now, some spiritual teachers will teach cleansing it before you give it back. Some will teach transmuting it before you give it back. Some will teach whatever the belief system that person has is. I believe that I can see it without having to take it on. I know what's mine. I can sense it. I can have awareness for it, but I don't have to take it on if I don't choose to. Now, sometimes I choose to, right? Sometimes in that moment. Also, these nuances of what to say, what time, when. What is yours to know because they wanted you to know, and what is yours to understand that they are capable of handling this or that. And it is not for you to solve that problem for them, because you're going to do it with your biases and your stories and not necessarily what's on their trajectory, on their path. So some of these things aren't for you to do for them. They are not a victim. You're not a victim, right? So many times they are empowered. You get to empower them to take their power back, to make their choices, right? Hey, this is what I'm hearing you say is your goal. These are the options that are available. I've heard you say that this is probably not going to work because of whatever. I've heard you say that this is probably not going to work because of whatever. Let's talk more about these two. When you hear them, you are aware of when they tense up. You're aware of, you hear them, you see them. But that does not mean you need to take that on. Now, some things you're going to. Because you want to. Because you want to be in that. Right? Because you are so fully in it. But also you don't need to take on what you don't choose to, energetically. Okay. Being highly sensitive is a gift. From noticing that she's tapping her pencil and being able to ask what she's thinking about, to that intuitive question that comes in your mind. To that crazy idea you have to put your practice and this building or that town, or to start a Facebook page, even though Facebook seems old school, or I made so many incredible choices before I had a clue what I was choosing. And some might look at my last number of years, and some might look at things in my life and think I was crazy. And they will, you too. You are doing something they haven't seen. And that's why they come to you. Right? Have you seen a leadership coach in healthcare talking about empath and intuition and energetics and chakra lately with a full cow skull behind her? I'm doing something different. And those of you that are drawn to me because of this holistic approach, because I speak to things that other people don't, because I understand some of the nuances of training in some larger metropolitan areas, of learning other ways of thinking, of learning other ways of being, and then coming back to communities that can be so frustrating when it feels like, what the hell are these backwoods people doing? They're so stuck in their old ways. And what the hell am I going to do with these stubborn old, whatever you say? And they're the people you love. And they're the people that you want to develop your practice for. And so getting this relationship component right, getting this foundation for how you develop your relationships, for how you show up in your relationships, how you show up in your relationship with you, how you show up in your relationship with being a provider, with your staff, your colleagues, your patients. Getting these systems and structures right and seeing what's out there and allowing it to support you. And truly providing and protecting a place for your fullest expression, your dreams, your values, and choosing which version of your multifaceted, incredible, brilliant self you are going to show up in as now, in this moment, with this patient, with this person. And it is this incredible sensitivity that you have that allows you to be extra brilliant at it.